guys, thanks for tuning in to another video episode on ForgottenWeapons.com. Today we're taking a look at a cool Austro-Hungarian World War I pistol. This is an 1898 Rast Gasser model. I would like to thank Larry, one of our viewers and commenters, who owns this pistol and was willing to send it out here for me to borrow and do a video on. Thank you, Larry. I've been looking for one of these for my own collection for a little while, but just haven't found the right one yet. So the 1898 Rast Gasser is really the last firearm produced by the Gasser concern. The first one was their 1870 model Austrian military revolver, which was in the very large 11 by 36 millimeter cartridge. They proceeded to manufacture a sequence of firearms for the Austro-Hungarian military and also for commercial sale. And like I said, this was about the last one of them. This was designed by a fellow named August Rast, and of course it was manufactured by the Gasser company. At that point, Leopold Gasser had passed away, and the firm was being run by his son Johann. These went into manufacture in 1898 when they were adopted by the Austro-Hungarian military, and they stayed in production until 1918. So a full 20-year production span, and in total about 200,000 of these were manufactured. They fire the 8mm Gasser cartridge, which is pretty much unique to these revolvers. It fires roughly 126 grain bullet at about 800 feet per second. And that kind of puts it on par with all of the other small caliber military revolvers of that period. The French 8mm ordnance revolver, the Japanese 8mm Nambu, not a revolver cartridge, but these are all kind of in the same area, roughly equivalent to 380 auto in energy. So let's start by taking a look at how this pistol disassembles, because it's got some pretty cool features to it, and then we'll go ahead and do a little bit of shooting. Alright, mechanically these are pretty interesting guns. They're very easy to disassemble. We're going to start by taking the cylinder out. You can see that there is a pin here under the ejector rod. We're going to pull that out and rotate it about 90 degrees. That locks it out. Then the whole assembly comes out. So that's the ejector rod assembly. Once that is out, we can open the loading gate and pull the cylinder out. So that's the front half of the gun. The firing mechanism is even simpler and just as cool. We're going to start by pulling the bottom of the trigger guard forward and then down. That releases it from this catch. This is very similar to a number of other military pistols that were around at this time. For example, the Japanese Type 26 revolver works this way. You can see there's a big screw here. That is actually a pivoting hinge. So the whole side plate of the gun opens up, and we can also take off the left side grip. And now the whole mechanism is wide open to see. So this is a double action revolver. You can see everything operating right there. One cool feature on it is the loading gate back here. When it's opened up, it disconnects the hammer from the firing mechanism. You can see that right here. There's this little football-shaped piece. And you can see when I lift when the loading gate is up, that piece is out of the way, and the hammer operates when you pull the trigger. When I push the loading gate down, it compresses this piece, which means that the trigger spur no longer has any impact on hammer operation. We'll see what that's useful for in just a moment. Beyond that, pretty standard gun. Can be fired single action as well as double. It's interesting to note that it actually has a separate firing pin right here, rather than having a firing pin fixed on the hammer. And lastly, it does have a safety notch so that when the trigger is not pulled, the hammer can't come forward to fire a cartridge. So this is safe to carry with a cartridge, with the cylinder full and a cartridge under the hammer. So loading the Rast Gasser was a kind of a slick operation. What you do is open the loading gate, and we can index the cylinder, drop a cartridge in. Then because, as I mentioned earlier, opening the loading gate disconnects the hammer, I can simply pull the trigger in order to rotate the cylinder one position. And I can do that 8 times. This is an 8-shot revolver until it's full. Now, closing the loading gate reconnects the hammer, so now the gun is ready to fire. I think it's a lot nicer, certainly a lot more practically accurate, to fire at single action. Unloading is done just like loading. We open the cylinder. We have a spring-loaded ejector rod here, which will pop out each case. Because this disconnects the hammer from the trigger, I can simply use the trigger, generally, to index the cylinder to each new space. And now we're ready to reload. So these 1898 pattern revolvers were manufactured all the way through World War I. They were used by the Austrian military. Even though the Steyr had been adopted in 1912 as a Austro-Hungarian self-loading pistol, they continued to purchase and use these revolvers simply because they needed a larger number of firearms, and having multiple manufacturers was a good way to do that, even if some of the guns were revolvers and some were self-loaders. These are gorgeous guns. They were manufactured to a very high quality of fit and finish. And in large part because of that, they continued to see service in Central Europe and in Italy as well, clear through the end of World War II. Now, there are pretty much all of these are going to be Austrian military marked on the top strap of the gun. This particular one that's been scrubbed off, you can just see a little bit of the remnant of it. But normally you'd see a WN and then a double eagle and then a 2-digit year date. This was originally a 1918 proofed gun, which fits. It's about 172,000 is the serial number. So a fairly late production gun. So overall, in single action, the trigger on this is quite nice. In double action, it's really quite heavy. The overall quality of the revolver is outstanding. The sights are pretty normal, kind of mediocre, about standard for the time. And the grip frame on it it's decent for formal target shooting. It's not really what we would consider today an ideal combat grip. I think we can give them a little bit of a break on that for it being 1898. Overall, very cool gun to add to a collection if you're interested. Ammunition is currently produced by Fiocchi. That's what I was shooting. It is 8mm Gasser, and it is safe to use in these revolvers. These were all originally smokeless powder guns, so you don't have to worry about black powder pressures like you do with some older revolvers. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tune back into ForgottenWeapons.com for more military revolvers.